Well, a new report is shedding light on the abuse and unfair treatment of domestic workers, many of them immigrants. Latina domestic workers in the Texas-Mexico border region are facing poor and dangerous working conditions. The findings were published by the National Domestic Workers Alliance in a report titled Living in the Shadows. Ai-jen Poo is the director of the NDWA and joins us now. Ai-jen, thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
This report was so fascinating to us. What would you say is really the biggest abuse when it comes to wage discrepancy?
There's a rampant problem of wage theft where more than a quarter of domestic workers working in the Rio Grande Valley region report not getting paid what they were agreed to in terms of a wage, or not getting paid at all for the work that they've done. And it's even worse for live-in workers. 45% of women who work as live-in domestic workers have experienced wage theft of some sort.
If this were to happen to any of us, nobody would sit quietly on this. You'd go and you'd push forward. But these folks, many of them are here illegally. How do they push back? Do they have a voice?
Well, there's so many challenges facing this workforce. Think about the fact that you could go into any neighborhood and not know which homes are also workplaces. They're not listed.
Yeah.
They're literally hidden behind closed doors, invisible to the public eye. And it creates a kind of Wild West type environment where you never quite know what you're going to get. You might find a wonderful household who you work for many years, and the relationship is very positive and respectful. And then there's cases of human trafficking, rape, sexual assault, and everything in between. There's very little mediating the relationship, and the workers are isolated. There's no HR department, there are no co-workers, and because of immigration status, and now particularly in this climate, the fear of reporting violations is off the charts.
So what do these employers say? How do they defend what they're doing?
You know, we have a culture that really devalues this work. Culturally, the work that women do, caring and cleaning, caring for our children, our aging parents, is not work that's recognized, valued, and protected. And so what we have is a situation where the people that we're counting on to take care of us, our aging parents, our loved ones with disabilities, and our children, can't take care of their own families on the wages that they earn.
That's pretty upsetting that they are caring for our families, but they can't even care for their own families.
They are working incredibly hard, and a third of them are reporting food insecurity.
What does that mean exactly?
Meaning hunger, actually working and not being able to put adequate food on the table within the last 12 months of the survey.
What do you say to people who are critical of this and say, well, they're here, they shouldn't be here in the first place?
I say there's no way any sector of this economy could function without this workforce. This is the work that makes everything else in the economy possible.
Why is that?
It's the work that caring for our children, making sure that the most important elements of our lives are in good hands, allows for you and I to go to work and do what we do in the world every day, knowing that those most important elements of our lives are in good hands. It's incredibly critical. If all of the domestic workers decided not to go to work one day in the border region, for example, nothing else would be possible.
What are your recommendations ultimately for these workers? What could be done that you think could make a real big difference?
We need to strengthen protections for this workforce at the city level, at the state level, and at the federal level. We need to value and recognize this work. If you have a caregiver or domestic worker working in your home, make sure that she earns a living wage, has paid time off, and has a clear work agreement.
What would be a fair living wage, right? Everyone looks to try and get a good deal. And you talk about this. These are your family members they're caring for, whether the elderly or your children. What is deemed, what is not okay and what is okay?
Well, I mean, what this report reveals is rampant wage theft. So people are not even paid what they're negotiating with, for, and what they've agreed upon with their employers. We have to make sure that workers are paid at what they've agreed to, and a living wage. And so for each kind of work, it's different. So for house cleaners, we recommend at least $25 an hour.
$25 an hour.
For independent house cleaners, and at least $15 an hour in most places. It all depends on where you live.
All right. I want to thank you very much, Ai-jen Poo, for joining us on an important issue that we often don't give thought about. So grateful you can be here.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.